And welcome back, everyone. Lots of you are getting your kids ready for back to school, and next Monday is the first day for some Valley students. So before they start, we want to remind them about driving safety tips, the rules of the road to keep everyone safe. And joining us this noon hour is DPS Lieutenant Chris Olivares. Thanks for taking the time today.
Thanks for having me, Dina. Thanks for being here.
There is so much to cover with this. So TxDOT made it very easy for everyone, sharing tips for drivers, tips for children. Tell us about those.
Well, I mean, of course, it's a kickoff to the new school year, and we want to make sure that not only the children, but of course parents and teachers and staff are well aware of practicing good safety habits and continue practicing those good safety habits, especially going to the new school year. So with all this information right now, especially what TxDOT has shared with the general public, we want to make sure that children that are going to and from school are safe. And also those that are on the roadways, the general motoring public, are aware of some of these safety habits, what to be aware of when there is children going to and from school, involving school buses, to know the laws, and that's what we're going to talk about here today.
Okay, so let's go over those tips. We do have a graphic that I believe was sent to us from TxDOT. Tips for drivers, tips for children. There we go. Tell us about that.
So of course, when there's children involved, when they're going to and from school, whether they're walking or on a bicycle, it's always important to be aware of the route. So as parents, we want to make sure we ensure their safety. So we want to know what route they're taking to and from school, if they are walking or on a bicycle to school. If they're walking, to make sure they're using a sidewalk. They obey all traffic signs, stop signs, crosswalks. If they're on a bicycle, to make sure their bike is safe. That has reflectors. They're using a helmet. Those are very important key issues when we talk about children that are walking to and from school, especially in some of these rural areas where you may not have a police officer to actually walk to and across.
Dark. So
it's dark, yes, especially in the early morning hours. So
they head out so early, so it's dark, and they need that reflective tape on their backpacks or whatever to help them out.
Reflective gear, reflective equipment on their bicycle, their helmet, to make sure they're all that. And also, most important, again, to go in and follow that route to make sure they're getting to and from school safely.
Okay, let's talk about bus safety. It is so important. So many of our students ride buses to and from school. So give us, what do we need to know to share the roads with buses?
Well, the important thing is, as soon as you see a school bus stop, when you see those flashing red lights, when you see that stop sign extended to stop behind or in front of the bus, especially depending on what kind of highway you're on. If you're on a divided highway, there's a median that separates the two highways, then you're okay. Now, other roadways, and of course in the Rio Grande Valley,
I'm going to stop you real quick just so you can see. Our weather team came up with this graphic. It's wonderful. So we've got the 2 lanes.
Exactly. So you have a 2-lane highway, which of course there you do have to stop in front of the bus or behind the bus. You have a multi-lane paved across, which you have a center median, but no protective barrier. So in that case, you still have to stop either in front or behind the bus, and then
that's in both directions.
Exactly. That's going to and from behind the bus, and then of course divided highway, you do have a protective barrier. It could be a cement median. There you also have to stop as well. If you're on the opposite side, make sure you slow down. Be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of any children that are getting off the bus as well, or any children that are actually together gathered at a school bus stop as well. So always be aware of your surroundings anywhere you see a school bus or children.
Okay, let's move on to driving in school zones. Give us the do's and don'ts.
Well, first off, follow the speed limit. Most important. When you're entering the school zone, there is a flashing yellow light. It does tell you the speed limit has been reduced. Follow the speed limit. Most importantly, distracted driving. That is one of the key issues that we see in Texas, exactly, with crashes. Avoid using your phone. That's why it's important to use some type of handheld device that you don't have to actually use your mobile phone. If you have to answer a text or a phone call, pull over safely and then answer the phone or answer their text message. But also be aware of your surroundings when you're in that school zone. There is children that are gathered at bus stops. There's children that are walking back and forth across the highway. Always be aware of your surroundings in case a child just all of a sudden just come out of nowhere. Make sure you have enough space between yourself and anybody to have as far as the speed and distance to brake in time. So that's very important. There's gonna be a lot of traffic in those areas, especially now in the morning, afternoon. So be aware of your surroundings. That's the most important thing.
And what can happen if we get caught, or some people get caught, texting in the school zone, driving too fast in the school zone? What are some of the violations or fines that could happen?
Right. Well, it's a fine. You're looking at a fine over $1,000, right? But the fines aside, I mean, we want to ensure the safety. That's the most important thing. We want to prevent any crashes or any injuries to children. But of course, there is consequences with that if you are caught with a mobile device, if you are speeding in a school zone. If there is distracted driving, you can get stopped and you will receive a fine. But again, most importantly is to make sure we ensure the safety of children that are going to and from school. That's the most important thing.
Okay, finally, let's talk about kids walking to school, using those crosswalks, or riding their bikes to school. It's so important that we are alert and keeping an eye on these kids.
Absolutely, that's a very important part that you just brought up right there, especially in some of these rural areas, these rural communities where you may not have a sidewalk, you may not have intersections that have a crosswalk. It's important as parents or anyone that's actually monitoring children to make sure you follow that route or to monitor that route where they're going to and from school if they're using a bicycle or they're walking. If there is no sidewalks, make sure the children walk on the left side of the roadway where they're facing traffic. And also, most importantly, again, if it's in the early morning hours where they're waiting for a school bus or they're having to walk to school or on a bicycle, again, going back to what we talked about earlier, having that reflective type of gear on them, a vest or reflective
tape,
some type of protective measures or tape on their bicycle as well. So very important, especially when we talk about the early morning hours, how the hours are going to shift as well when we come to October. So it's very important to be aware of that.
All good advice. One last message to everyone listening at home. School is going to get underway next week for thousands of kids across the valley. What do they need to do? What do you want?
Well, we want the school year to be very memorable for students, right, and for the teachers and for everyone. So we want to take a proactive approach. We want to make sure that the children, students, teachers, and staff are safe. And that's why it's very important to have these conversations. It's also important to monitor safety tips, not only from DPS, but also local law enforcement as well as tech side as well, so we can have a safe school year.
All right, well, we know you guys are going to be very busy these next few weeks getting everyone ready. Thanks so much for joining us and sharing that important information. Again, school starts in a lot of places next Monday. Slow down in school zones and watch out for kids and school buses. We'll be right back.